If we build them poorly, if we go, if we're all racing and we go so fast that there's no guardrails, then I think there is risk of something going wrong. I think the biggest thing to watch is this issue of AI systems, building AI systems. How that goes, whether that goes one way or another, that will determine, whether it's a few more years until we get there, or if we have, if we have wonders and a great emergency in front of us that we have to face.
AI systems, building AI systems.
I agree on that, so we're keeping close touch about that. But also, I think outside of that, I think there are other interesting ideas being researched, like world models, continual learning. These are the things I think that will need to be cracked. If self-improvement doesn't sort of deliver the goods on its own, then we'll need these other things to work. And then I think things like robotics may have its sort of breakout moment.
But maybe on the basis of what you've just said, we should all be hoping that it does take you a little bit longer, and indeed everybody else, to give us a
I would prefer that. I think that would be better for the world.
Guys, I had to rewatch this one a few times because I could not believe what I was hearing. Dario Amodei and Demis Hassabis, the two men actually building this stuff, sat down together for the first time in over a year, and by the end of the conversation, they were both quietly agreeing that they hope this technology takes longer to arrive. It wasn't ego talking, it was fear, plain and simple. When the CEOs racing each other to build the most powerful technology in human history are hoping for delays, that tells you exactly where we actually are. Here's the full conversation, and here's the part that stuck with me the most.
So, it's always hard to know exactly when something will happen, but I don't think that's going to turn out to be that far off. So, the mechanism whereby I imagined it would happen is that we would make models that were good at coding and good at AI research, and we would use that to produce the next generation of model and speed it up, to create a loop that would increase the speed of model development. We are now, in terms of the models that write code, I have engineers within Anthropic who say, I don't write any code anymore. I just let the model write the code, I edit it, I do the things around it. I don't know, we might be 6 to 12 months away from when the model is doing most, maybe all of what SWEs do end to end. And then it's a question of how fast does that loop close? Not every part of that loop is something that can be sped up by AI, right? There's like chips, there's manufacture of chips, there's training time for the model. So it's, I think there's a lot of uncertainty. It's easy to see how this could take a few years. It's very hard for me to see how it could take longer than that. Yeah. But if I had to guess, I would guess that this goes faster than people imagine, and that key element of code and increasingly research going faster than we imagine, that's going to be the key driver. It's really hard to predict, again, how much that exponential is going to speed us up, but something fast is going to happen.
So you, Demis, were a little more cautious last year. You said a 50% chance of a system that can exhibit all the cognitive capabilities humans can by the end of the decade. Mm-hmm. Clearly in coding, as Dario says, it's been remarkable. Mm. What is your sense of, do you stand by your prediction? Yes. And what's changed in the past year?
Yeah, look, I think I'm still on the same kind of timeline. I think there has been remarkable progress, but I think some areas of kind of engineering work, coding, also you could say mathematics, are a little bit easier to see how they'll be automated, partly because they're verifiable what the output is. Some areas of natural science are much harder to do than that. You won't necessarily know if the chemical compound you've built or this prediction about physics is correct. You may have to test it experimentally, and that will all take longer. So I also think there are some missing capabilities at the moment in terms of like not just solving existing conjectures or existing problems, but actually coming up with the question in the first place, or coming up with the theory or the hypothesis. I think that's much harder, and I think that's the highest level of scientific creativity, and it's not clear. I think we will have those systems, so I don't think it's impossible, but I think there may be one or two missing ingredients. It remains to be seen how, first of all, can this self-improvement loop that we're all working on actually close without a human in the loop? I think there are also risks to that kind of system, by the way, which we should discuss, and I'm sure we will, but that could speed things up if that kind of system does work.
So both of them are basically confirming the same terrifying math. Once AI starts doing its own research and writing its own next version, the timeline stops being a human decision. Dario straight up says it's hard for him to imagine this taking longer than a couple of years, and Demis, the more cautious one of the two, admits the self-improvement loop might close without anyone checking it first, and when the two most credible people in this industry both say the loop might just run on its own, I don't know how anyone is supposed to stay calm about that. Listen to this.
So, my take has not changed. It has always been my view that, AI is going to be incredibly powerful. I think Demis and I, kind of agree on that. It's just a question of exactly when. And because it's incredibly powerful, it will do all these wonderful things, like the ones I talked about in Machines of Loving Grace. It, will help us cure cancer. It may help us to eradicate tropical diseases. It will help us understand the universe. But that there are these, immense and grave risks that, not that we can't address them. I'm not a doomer, but that, we need to think about them and we need to address them. And I wrote Machines of Loving Grace first. I'd love to give some a sophisticated reason why I wrote that first, but it was just that the positive essay was easier and more fun to write than the negative essay. So I finally spent some time on vacation and I was able to write an essay about the risks. And even when I'm writing about the risks, I tried, I'm like an optimistic person, right? So even as I'm writing about these risks, I wrote about it in a way that was like, how do we overcome these risks? How do we have a battle plan to fight them? And the way I framed it was, there's this scene from Carl Sagan's Contact, the movie version of it, where they kind of discover alien life, and it's this international panel that's like interviewing people to be humanity's representative to meet the alien. And one of the questions they asked one of the candidates is, if you could ask the aliens any one question, what would it be? And one of the characters says, I would ask, how did you do it? How did you manage to get through this technological adolescence without destroying yourselves? How did you make it through? And ever since I saw it, it was like 20 years ago, I think I saw that movie, it's kind of stuck with me. And that's the frame that I used, which is that, we are knocking on the door of these incredible capabilities, right? The ability to build basically machines out of sand, right? I think it was inevitable that the instant we started working with fire, but how we handle it is not inevitable. And so I think the next few years we're going to be dealing with, how do we keep these systems under control that are highly autonomous and smarter than any human? How do we make sure that individuals don't misuse them, right? I have worries about things like bioterrorism. How do we make sure that nation states don't misuse them? That's why I've been so concerned about, the CCP, other authoritarian governments. What are the economic impacts, right? I've talked about labor displacement a lot, and what haven't we thought of, which in many cases, may be the hardest thing to deal with at all. So I'm thinking through how to address those risks. And, for each of these, it's a mixture of things that we individually need to do as leaders of the companies, and that we can do working together. And then there's going to need to be some role for wider societal institutions like the government in addressing all of these. But I just feel this urgency that every day there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on in the outside world, outside AI, right? But my view is this is happening so fast and is such a crisis. We should be devoting almost all of our effort to thinking about how to get through this.
This is the part that worries me the most, because Dario isn't talking hypotheticals here. He's naming bioterrorism and authoritarian governments as things he genuinely thinks about on a regular basis. He even borrows a line from the movie Contact, wondering how any civilization survives its own technological adolescence, and that is a strange thing for a CEO to be quoting out loud on a stage in 2026. If the man running one of the top labs on Earth is comparing this moment to a species-level survival test, that isn't marketing, that's a warning, whether he meant it to sound like one or not. Now listen to this.
Do you think it's going to take longer than you thought last year when you said half of all entry-level white-collar jobs?
I have about the same view. I actually agree with you and with Demis that at the time I made the comment, there was no impact on the labor market. I wasn't saying there was an impact on the labor market at that moment. Now I think maybe we're starting to see just the little beginnings of it, in software and coding. I even see it within Anthropic, where, I can look forward. I can kind of look forward to a time where, on the more junior end, and then on the more intermediate end, we actually need less and not more people. And we're thinking about how to deal with that within Anthropic in a sensible way. 1 to 5 years as of 6 months ago, I would stick with that. If you kind of, connect this to what I said before, which is, we might have AI that's better than humans at everything in, maybe 1 to 2 years, maybe a little longer than that. Those don't seem to line up. The reason is that there's this lag, and there's this replacement thing, right? I know that the labor market is adaptable, right? It's just like, 80% of people used to do farming. Farming got automated, and then they became factory workers and then knowledge workers. So, there is some level of adaptability here as well, right? We should be economically sophisticated about how the labor market works. But my worry is, as this exponential keeps compounding, and I don't think it's going to take that long, again, somewhere between a year and 5 years, it will overwhelm our ability to adapt.
Dario's own words here should worry anyone under 30 sitting in an office job right now, because he's saying Anthropic itself is planning for a future where it needs fewer people, not more. He's even put a window on it, somewhere between 1 and 5 years before the labor market simply cannot adapt fast enough to keep up with the pace of these models. And remember, this isn't an outside economist guessing from a spreadsheet. This is coming from inside the company building the thing that's causing the disruption.
We're just one company, and we're trying to operate in the environment that exists, no matter how crazy it is. But I think at least my policy recommendations haven't changed. That not selling chips is one of the biggest things we can do to make sure that we have the time to handle this. I said before, I prefer Demis's timeline. I wish we had 5 to 10 years. So it's possible he's just right and I'm just wrong. But assume I'm right, and it can be done in 1 to 2 years. Why can't we slow down to Demis's timeline?
Well, you could just slow down.
But the reason we can't do that is because we have geopolitical adversaries building the same technology at a similar pace. It's very hard to have an enforceable agreement where they slow down and we slow down. And so if we can just not sell the chips, then this isn't a question of competition between the US and China. This is a question of competition between me and Demis, which I'm very confident that we can work out.
And what do you make of the logic of the administration, which, as I understand it, is we need to sell them chips because we need to bind them into US supply chains?
So, I think it's a question not just of time scale, but of the significance of the technology, right? If this was telecom or something, then all this stuff about proliferating the US stack and wanting to build our chips around the world to make sure that these random countries in different parts of the world build data centers that have Nvidia chips instead of Huawei chips. I think of this more as like, it's a decision. Are we going to, sell nuclear weapons to North Korea? And because that produces some profit for Boeing, where we can say, okay, yeah, these cases were made by Boeing, like the U.S. is winning, like this is great. Like I just, that analogy should just make clear how I see this trade-off, that I just don't think it makes sense.
Comparing chip sales to China to selling nuclear weapons to North Korea is about as blunt as it gets, and Dario says it with a straight face because he clearly believes it. What stood out to me is that he admits he would rather slow down to Demis's timeline of 5 to 10 years instead of 1 or 2, but geopolitics won't let either of them do it. So we're left in a spot where the man building the technology thinks the world is moving too fast, but says he can't stop because he's convinced somebody else simply won't. Now you have to hear this one.
Since the beginning of Anthropic, we've kind of thought about this risk. I mean, our research at the beginning of it was very theoretical, right? We pioneered this idea of mechanistic interpretability, which is looking inside the model and trying to understand, looking inside its brain, trying to understand why it does what it does. As human neuroscientists, which we actually both have background in, try to understand the brain. And I think as time has gone on, we've increasingly documented the bad behaviors of the models when they emerge, and are now working on trying to address them with mechanistic interpretability. So I've always been concerned about these risks. I've talked to Demis many times. I think he has also been concerned about these risks. I think I have definitely been, and I would guess Demis as well, although I'll let him speak for himself, skeptical of doomerism, which is, we're doomed, there's nothing we can do, or this is the most likely outcome. I think this is a risk. This is a risk that if we all work together, we can address. We can learn through science to properly, control and direct these creations that we're building. But if we build them poorly, if we go, if we're all racing and we go so fast that there's no guardrails, then I think there is risk of something going wrong.
So there it is. The guy who co-founded Anthropic on the idea of looking inside a model's brain is telling a live audience that they've already documented bad behavior in these systems and are racing to understand it before it becomes a bigger problem. He says he's not a doomer, but everything he described, the bioterrorism worry, the labor market that can't keep up, the chips he compares to selling weapons to North Korea, and a self-improvement loop neither of them can fully predict, sounds exactly like doom dressed up in calm, careful language. And the most unsettling part of the whole conversation is that both of these men, competitors in a $1 trillion race, ended the conversation hoping the other one wins by going slower. If that's where the optimists in this industry have actually landed, I don't think the rest of us should be feeling any better about where this is headed. If this left you uneasy, subscribe, because I'll keep bringing you what these people are really saying when the camera goes off.